Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm gonna talk about the latest episode of The Originals. A very, very good episode. Things kind of escalated a lot quickly in this episode than I thought they would. Like everyone inadvertently found out. I was like, yep. The Hollow is still alive. Obviously, you saw inklings of like, yo, something's up here because there's that thing that Haley and Hope do where they kiss their fingers and then touch their fingers together. Like the fact of the matter, she didn't respond to that, so you obviously saw something like Haley kind of like, okay, something's kind of iffy here, and especially when everyone slowly finds out, respectively in different ways, that the Hollow's still alive because Klaus. It's weird. It's so weird calling him by his full name. I don't think I've ever really done that. Klaus and Elijah were with Marcel and Vincent and found out that way. And then later on from the acolytes finding out, it's like, oh yeah, actually our leader is in your daughter's body, which severely pissed Klaus off. So proceeded to rip those dudes apart. Because it seems like everything is, it seems like it wasn't just 100% about, like, protecting yourself. Like, once again, like, I wasn't expecting her to be found out. I thought this was going to last a little bit longer. But no, it's like, no, this is all for the purposes of, like, possessing. Like, she needed enough time to pass so that she could possess Hope's body fully. Because even at this point in time, she wasn't fully in control of Hope's body. The fact of the matter is that, that's what this is about, because Hope is like one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful witch around. And the fact of the matter is she's so powerful at such a young age too. Who's to say given enough time that her powers won't increase even more? So that is what this is all about. It isn't just like, it's biding her time until she got complete control of Hope. But it's like your family, you can't do anything. I'm in Hope's body. Like none of you would do anything to hurt her. So puts them all in a very messed up situation. The entirety of this episode is like, once again, the Michelson family is kind of falling apart because obviously you have Haley. Once again, like it turns out my guess was correct last episode. It isn't just about getting away from Elijah. It's about getting away from the entire Michelson family. Because for her, it's like she saw the darker side of Elijah. She ran into in this episode. She couldn't even like say a word to him before she just walked away. And what it is like the fact of the matter is, like it's not like it's the Michelson family in general, because the fact of the matter is they always do everything. Yes, it's all about protecting family and stuff like that. I get it. All of what Elijah has done for his family, what he's done for her, anyone. But the fact of the matter is she saw that side of him, and the fact of the matter is he did it so naturally. It came so easily to him. So it makes her think that that's his true nature. That maybe the Klaus, that even though it was just the Hollow getting side of her with pretending to be Jackson and everything, it still touched that spot. Like it was basically resonating stuff she already felt. Like maybe that really is who Elijah really is, that the man I fell in love with isn't this man, or maybe I did fall in love with because he is a monster, because he can accept the monster that I am in some shape or form. But it's like I don't want my daughter surrounded by that, because she ends up telling Rebecca, I don't want Hope to have the idea that it's okay for things to operate the way that they do, that her family handles things the way they do, locking people in dungeons, wiping out, slaughtering enemies and stuff like that. So, like I said, you get where she's coming from. And even, Rebecca didn't really respond because she understands, like, Haley's reservation. She never really said anything outright of like, okay, this is what's going to go down. But it did seem like she was going to try and talk to Klaus about it. Because there's another thing, because like we know that Alaric has that whole school situation. He already introduced that to them a couple episodes back. So that's probably a possibility that maybe Haley's like, hey, go to Mystic Falls, let that be. Because she kind of wants a normal life for Hope. Granted, being who she is, Hope will never have a normal life, but I guess that's the closest she'll get to a normal life, a good, wholesome environment to grow up in, and not just this blood-stained situation that constantly surrounds them, enemies always coming after them and everything. To the point later on in the episode when it came down to it, like Elijah's like, let me help. She's like, don't touch me. I should have never came back here, which is like, that's not fair. Like the fact of the matter is, like, this was all going to play out the way it did anyway because of like the Hollow. She's the one that drew you guys back in. Like if it weren't for the Hollow, you guys would have never come back and everything. But it's just like, Haley's pissed off and everything, and it's just like it's like I said, it's not even just the Michelson family, it's herself. Like she's trying to be a good mother. She wants to be a good mother, which isn't to say she hasn't been one. She's been a fantastic mom all this time, but it's like it's still the things of everything that she's done. Like her little girl, she wants to keep that innocence in her little girl because she doesn't want her little girl to grow up like any of them. I mean, that's something that Klaus has constantly thought about. That was always his biggest fear. Like, when he was talking to Cammy, inside of his head at the beginning of the season, like one of his greatest fears is that the fact is that not only would she hope see him the way he is, see him as the monster that he is, that she would also end up like him. That was his greatest fear. So that's something that a mentality that they share. And the fact of the matter is that, Haley was feeling that way. Elijah, at one point in the episode, he's like, I want you to, he's like, you, Klaus, I want you to take Hope and Haley and leave. He's like, yeah, you forgot about yourself in that equation, brother. But he's like, no, like the fact of the matter is Haley may never look at me the same way anymore. Like, I think he was basically telling Klaus, you don't know what it is that I can't describe to you what it is that she saw. She saw a side of him that, even though, like I said, like Elijah has, a monstrous side. They all do. So Klaus is going to be like, no matter how much of a monster you have inside you, brother, we've all done some monstrous things ourselves. So he's going to be a lot more forgiving to Elijah because it's like, because, most people who are enemies with the originals, yes, there are problems with the other siblings as well, but mostly everyone hates Klaus because of how ruthless he's always been. But, certain things have kind of shown that Elijah can be just as ruthless, if not even more. Like, he can be even more bloodthirsty and more relentless than even Klaus, which it says a lot. But then again, it's like, you take that into account. The brothers all have a tendency to kind of outdo each other because, like, Cole's kind of got his thing, Elijah's got his whole thing, and then Klaus got his own thing. I mean, it's circumstances that, obviously, like, Klaus became the monster he did out of spite of Michael. He never wanted to feel weak or powerless again. He wanted to feel strong and dominate all his enemies so that no one would ever stand up to him, so that he'd never have to feel that way again, like, weak, So that's kind of the way Klaus has lived his life, and obviously has brought trouble to their doorstep on multiple occasions. And it's actually something he actually brought up to Hope, something he's never talked to her about before. He's like, I was not a good person before you were around. The fact of the matter is, I did very terrible things. I hurt a lot of people. I did whatever I wanted to, but that all changed when you came here. So it's like, I'm telling you, I need you to keep fighting because I can't lose you, because if I lose you, I might turn back into that person again. So another big part of this episode was like finally like Freya and Keelan did their thing. Finally like Freya kind of dropped her walls and finally opened up. It's like the fact of the matter is, seeing what the Hollow showed her last episode kind of put things in perspective. And it also put things even more in perspective for her, considering the fact that she's like, yeah, my family, they will always keep coming back. Me, I'm human. Yeah, I have these powers and everything, but eventually I will die. I mean, the only reason why she's been around this long is because like the whole situation with her and her aunt, like them being tied together, kind of gave them almost a sense of longevity. But then again, she has a normal human's lifespan, so she will grow old and die in one day. I mean, if some circumstances don't lead to her dying sooner, such as like, why waste time like messing around? Like, no more running away. It's time to run towards something. That's Keelan. And like I said, it's nice because I brought it up earlier, like when I was throwing that whole thing out, I was like, Freya and Keelan being a thing, I was like, because it seemed like she might have feelings for her, because the fact of the matter is, like, the reason why I'm reiterating that is because, like, the fact of the matter is, like, this is the closest thing Freya's had to someone outside of her family. I brought that up earlier, I'm gonna bring it up again. Like, that is, like, all, her family's all she's ever had and all she's known. She's had quote-unquote friends, but even then, like, I wouldn't count them as friends. I call them associates outside of, like, the Michelson family. And so Keelan's, like, the first really good thing outside of her life, so obviously she wants to fight like hell to keep her alive and keep her safe, especially after seeing what she saw last episode. But obviously, like, Vincent is talking to, the Hollow, talking to her mom on the other side, which then kind of begs the question, where is that? I mean, because obviously the other side doesn't exist. It hasn't existed since like season 5 of the Vampire Diaries. Well, the tail end of season 5. The season finale was like the end of the other side. But then again, I guess it's kind of more of like a... Well, then again, it's like the ancestor side of things still exists. So there are other versions of the other side that still exist. I get the other side was always kind of like, this is an... Well, no, because like series finale of the originals kind of brought up an aspect of the afterlife too. So that's... So I guess there was like, obviously because the other side was more so kind of basically limbo is kind of what it kind of served a purpose as. Why I'm getting all technical with it and everything. Nevertheless, Vincent went to go see Anadu's mom to learn more about, like, hey, how to stop, the Hollow and everything. So When she learned a spell and everything, and like Hope was fighting back, and because like the tattoo that was obviously the serpent eating his own tail was slowly fading away, but Anada was able to get away and get back into Hope's body and burn the book, so there's no going back there. Which the fact is the tattoo didn't go full circle makes me think that Hope is still there fighting, but she's kind of buried down deep inside. Because I mean, obviously Sophia woke up this episode. Very interesting, considering because the fact of the matter is like when it was all said and done, like the Michaelsons say, yeah, we got to leave because we made that whole deal with Marcel. But Rebecca's like, nah, leave it to me. I'll handle this. Because there's a part of her that's like, oh, obviously you're not going to kick us out because obviously there's something here between us, Marcel. He's like, no, the fact of the matter is that shouldn't have happened. You know, it's like, you know, Sophia's about to wake up and everything. I'm going to wake Sophia up. And he's like, look me in the eye and tell me it meant nothing. So obviously he didn't because he couldn't, because it did mean something to him, whether he didn't want to admit it or not. But Sophia's awake now. But she kind of commented on the fact of the matter is that there is a part of you that's still there. You're kind of shoved off in a deep, dark corner of yourself. And till the hollow completely takes you over. And the only reason why like she stayed alive was because like she was like, I'm not going to let the hollow win. So, and she was telling Klaus to kind of do the same thing for Hope. So, but you do see that look on Rebecca's face at the end of the episode when we see her looking at Marcel and Sophia. So that's kind of officially a thing, which is like, I was like, I do want Rebecca and Marcel because there's, once again, there's so much history there. But as I brought up last episode too, because there's so much history there, that might be reservations for it, especially considering the fact is that Marcel's trying to distance himself from the Michelson family. So it's like, all of it is kind of all for naught, because when it's all said and done, now like Hope is, like the hollow is in Hope's body and she's amassing her army. Like what the actual end goal is, still don't know. I guess she's just going to ravage the lands until she devours everything, you know, being the hollow and everything, because all she desires is more power. That's why she took Hope's body. Also because it was insurance, because it's, once again, still keep, well, I brought it up earlier. I was like, oh, it was buying time so she could take over Hope's body for power, but it is also like insurance, because the fact is the family won't do anything now, because the only way they'd be able to stop the hollows if they killed Hope, which they'd never do that because she's too important to them. But also at the same time, it's like, it wouldn't matter because she'd also jump to another body. She'd find some other host too. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation. And you even have Klaus being so distraught. He's like, the fact of the matter is like, basically like this is my little girl in trouble here. And I need every one of your helps. Cause we made a promise, and this includes you now too, Fred, that for our family would always be there for each other for now, for like, you know, now and forever, essentially. But then Vincent's like, okay, there might be a way to help with this situation, but basically it would be the end of your family. It would destroy everything. There will no longer be a now and forever, which there's a look on Klaus's face like, wait, what does that mean? Immediately, my brain immediately went like, because we need a powerful host. Like like now that the book's going, there's no way to pull the hollow out without having to put her in someone else's body, is immediately where my brain goes. What this might mean is they might have to sacrifice one of the originals. They're the only one strong enough to house her power, and then they'd have to kill one of them to make sure it's stuck. Immediately when my brain goes like, I was thinking like Klaus was going to show up and volunteer, like bring her into my body and you kill her just to make sure that Hope's alive, because it's like, if Hope's not around, I wouldn't have been a good person anyway, so allow me to make this sacrifice for my little girl. At the same time, my brain also goes, it might just be Elijah, because Elijah might be looking for a way to redeem himself in some shape or form. And the best way he can do that is to make things up to Haley, you know, is by being, you know, essentially a good uncle, you know, and being a good man, you know, for the sake of his family, for the sake of Hope, for the sake of Haley. Now, whether that's the case or not, I don't know. Because it turned out next week's episode is the freaking season finale. Completely caught me off guard. It's like, man, everything kind of goes up and down. Like, I mean, I guess I should have expected. I mean, considering the fact that the Vampire Diaries was like, the final season was like shorter than normal. But even then, it's like, I was like so certain. I was like, oh yeah, this season's going to be a lot longer, especially with things. But it's like, no, things kind of, I just wasn't expecting it to be this short, which is kind of catching me off guard. So, but still, that's crazy. Season finale already. I mean, which is awesome. But at the same time, it's like, oh, I thought there was like a lot more to this. But it's like, I'm very interested to see how this all like plays out. I mean, what is it that will, I mean, I get the feeling that might be it. Like, That's immediately where my mind goes, because Vince is basically like now and forever. Me, like the fact of the matter is that no matter what happens, you'll always never give up on each other. But when it's all said and done, you might not have a choice in this matter. That your family will never be the same after what needs to be done. So whether that's the case, maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe there's some accuracy to what I've said. Also, where's Haley going off to? Because she's handling things on her own. It's not even like she's just cutting out Elijah. She's cutting out everybody. It's like, this is your family. These are people who will be by your side to help you with this situation. But I think it's like I said, she's just so distraught at this moment. Her little girl is mixed up in all of this, and I think on some level, in some part of her brain, Haley kind of like I said, she's mad at just everything. She's mad at the world. She's mad at the circumstances. So she's kind of lashing out at Elijah just because it's like he's not the man that she thought he was, but at the same time, it's like she's not necessarily the person she wants to be. She's not the mom she wants to be. It's like, I'm sure she blames herself for this whole circumstance because it's like, I'm the one that brought hope here and everything. So I don't know. There was one point in the episode too, like when Vincent was in that afterlife going to visit Anadu's mom. I could have sworn I saw in one fraction of it, like I saw someone peeking from behind a tree. Maybe that was just my imagination. I could have sworn I saw that. So maybe there was someone else that kind of found their way back, when Vincent like died to get to there, so. Also, the fact of the matter is they never brought it up. So I'm curious, did Josh ever tell like Marcel or Vincent about Davina coming back? Because they didn't mention it or anything like that. Like, I'm happy that Dee's back and everything. But it's like they didn't say anything, so maybe he hasn't taken an opportunity to tell them anything. Considering, the fact of the matter is, like, Cole and Davina are off being happy, so it's like I'm sure no one's going to want to rain on that parade by telling them like, yo, your family's in danger. It might be a situation where Cole has to come back, like, yo, he has to see this through with his family, make sure that the Hollow doesn't come back trying to come after Davina again. So it's like, yeah, she's out of Davina, she's out of the situation. Plus, my niece is in trouble. It's time for us to put this witch down for good. So it's definitely going to be a crazy season finale. I'm very curious to see how this all plays out. Like, I feel like there's no telling how this is going to end. Personally, like I brought up, I don't think it's going to end very nicely. I think someone is going to walk away from this situation and not come back. Kind of end all be all type of situation. So, but we will just kind of have to wait and see. And even if things do kind of like work out, what does that mean for Haley too? Will that mean taking Hope away, like legitimately taking her away from her family, her entire family, including Klaus? Because she, it's like, oh, once again, have to be brave. And I know what I have to do. I just have to be brave enough to do it. So will you be willing to remove her from her entire family for her own sake? The questions that I'm curious we'll get answers to. Like I said, that's if things kind of work out decently well in a more positive light, in the season finale. So like I said, we'll just kind of have to wait and see. So. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.